Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Andreas. I will guide you through this session on chatting with your data. If you want to communicate with me, you can use the chat. For me, it's over there. So if I'm looking over there, I'm looking at the chat. You can also ask questions in the Q&A section, and you also get a recording of this webinar after it ended. It will be converted, and then you get an email with the recording of it. So what's our topic today? Our topic today is, well, a topic that's very present right now. It is about chatting with your data by using an AI assistant. You might have seen everywhere these chat boxes popping up, allowing you to chat with all kinds of things, from a PDF file to your Amazon wish list to your Google search bar, whatnot. And more often than not, at least for me personally, I find these chat boxes rather not very helpful. I usually give them a quick try and then I dismiss them. Fortunately, one exception to that, of course, is the chat bar that we are going to use today, the chat with MAXQDA's AI Assist. And I will show you concrete use cases on how to use it, how I have used it in my own research, and I will provide you with some prompts so that when you don't know what to do with this empty chat box, you have some ideas on how you can implement it and what you can do. And as part of this webinar, you will also receive 10 prompts that I consider useful. Maybe an 11th prompt will be in there, but we'll see. So what are we talking about? We are talking today about AI Assist. AI Assist is an add-on to MAXQDA 24. MAXQDA, in case you don't know it that well yet, is a data analysis software for qualitative data analysis. It's mainly used for analyzing text and for coding data, very prominent in qualitative research, in interview research, if you do research with documents or focus groups. MAXQDA is a program. It's a called QDA program or a CACDAS program, and it's used for analyzing qualitative data. Look, AI Assist is an add-on to that. It's an integration, an optional integration. You don't have to use it. You can use it. And it integrates the capabilities of a large language model into MAXQDA 24. Probably you already know that a large language model is used, at least in our case, to generate text based on training data and a prompt. You might do something like, I want to write me a poem about water, and then you write this into a chat box of a large language model, and then it will come up with something. A poem about water, of course. Here's a poem about water. Water, your source of life, and whatnot and whatnot. And this is what large language models do. They're basically text prediction machines trained based on training data, and you tell them what you want by entering a prompt. MAXQDA's AI Assist, for the most part of it, has these prompts already built in. So if you, for example, click in MAXQDA that you want a summary of this document, you will get a summary without ever needing to write a prompt, because the prompts are sort of built in somewhere in the background. However, MAXQDA also allows you to write your own prompts and to do with the data whatever you like. And this is the part of the AI feature that I would say is the most creative one, where you have the biggest potential to do innovative things, to do your own things, and you're not dependent on what feature has been built in now or not. AI Assist uses a more deterministically set up model that tries to limit creativity to that degree that you have less hallucination. So if you use the same prompts over and over again, you should get very similar results because it is set to following the more likely path and making sure that hallucination is kept to a bare minimum. Of course, as with any generative AI integration, you always have to question the results. How do you get access to AI Assist? Very briefly, you can of course also Google it, find it online. The key essence is you need to have MAXQDA 24, that is the newest version of MAXQDA. You need to create a MAXQDA account and be logged in when using it. you need to at least activate the free version of AI Assist. Usually, if you, for example, buy a license, it immediately asks you, do you want AI Assist? Yes, for free and premium. For free means you can use it as part of your MAXQDA license without any extra fee, but it gives you a certain limit on how much you can use it a day. And if you have premium, it's unlimited. Very recently, I did quite a lot of research, and then I noticed, then suddenly the limit kicked in for the free version, and I noticed that I've entered the wrong license key. But I worked for quite a while, even for several days, before noticing that I'm by accident on the free version because I had the wrong license in. So already with the free version, you can do a lot, you can explore a lot, you can try the options. And of course, it requires an active internet connection because MAXQDA needs to access these large language models. So if we think about what AI Assist can do, I sort of built my own terminology, or more my own typology, you could say. Right now in MAXQDA, AI Assist as an add-on can do 4 different things with different subfunctions, of course, but 4 general things. It can help you to summarize data, for example, documents, coded segments, segment comments, in-document memos, all kinds of data can be summarized in MAXQDA just by clicking a single button. You can generate new ideas for codes, subcodes, and to explain text segments. You can also AI code your documents. That means you choose a code and then tell the AI, please tell me where does this code apply, and the AI will apply the code for you. And the third one here, last one in my order now, is that you can chat with documents or coded segments. In this third point, 1 out of 4 is the key focus of today's webinar, where we'll take a look at chatting with the data. And that means we'll in particular explore what prompts are useful, what can you do with it, what are the limitations, and so on and so on. So, chatting with your data. In MAXQDA, you have 2 different versions or ways to begin chatting with your data, or to begin a prompt-based interaction with your data, or prompt-based analysis of your data. One is that you chat based on a document, and the other one is that you chat based on coded data. And this distinction will follow us a little bit throughout this webinar. Chatting based on documents means you choose either a single document, or by now also several documents, and you say, I would like to chat with this document. I would like to do something with the contents of this document. For example, you have a PDF file and you tell me, what does this PDF file say about my topic? And then you get an output. That would be document based. You choose one document or several documents, and then you type something in the chat interface. The other way, and that's more QDA and MAXQDA specific, is that you can chat based on coded data. So you have coded data, you have labeled your data under certain topics, themes, codes, concepts, categories, however you want to call them. And based on this pre-labeled data, you could call it, or labeled data, coded data, you can start chatting. You can say, I would like to chat or to do some prompt-based analysis with all the data that I have labeled as education, for example, which gives you a different angle and different options what you can do with this. What are the requirements? Just to think a little bit about how can we optimize the performance of this chatting. Based on documents, it means that you have good, clean, and focused documents. What do I mean by that? A simple example, I recently had a chapter from a book. It was an edited volume, and at the beginning and end of the PDF was always the text of the previous and following article. This was quite confusing to the AI because there is the key article, and then before and after there's the conclusion and introduction. This was just a thing of the PDF file. This can be confusing because you as a human might focus on the article itself and not on the little bits that are around it, but the AI might get confused by it. I took an article that I published and asked the AI, please summarize this article, and suddenly there were strange things in there because of the before and after text. Or if you scan documents, you need to make sure that you have a good optical character recognition, so that if you have a PDF, that you have a good text layer. If you copy and paste the text from the PDF, it should be fine. If the text is gibberish, the AI can absolutely do nothing. Also, a new option, quite new option, is that you can chat with more than one document. There is a bit of a limitation on how much data it can be. It's constantly shifting, so I don't know the most up-to-date number, but you can chat with up to 30 documents at once, which is quite a big number. Depending on the length of your document, it might be able to handle up to 30. If you have very long documents, it might just be 3, 4, 5 documents, but we will see that in the exercise in just a second. So this is chatting based on a document. Make sure that you have a clean document, that the text layer is fine, that there is no disturbing text. I also sometimes like to cut away the headers and the footnotes or these things, just to make sure that it's not confusing. Especially with PDFs, you need to be a bit more cautious, because PDFs can, even for humans, sometimes have a bit of a confusing structure, and simple Word or text files are much easier to handle. And the second type of data that we can chat with is coded data. Coded data means data that has been, well, coded, so labeled with certain topics, codes, keywords. Well, this of course requires that you have already coded your data. This is in particularly interesting if you have a methodology that uses coding anyway. And then if you have your coded data, there are some nice and interesting things that you can do with your already coded data based on a chat interface. If you don't intend to code at all, it's a good question if you still want to go into coding, or instead just work with the chat. But if you have coded data, chatting with coded data is very, very interesting. I will show you why. One thing that's important for our coding, if you code and you plan later to use AI for summarizing this coded data, for chatting with this coded data, it's important that you have rather large segments than smaller segments of data. So if you have just 2 or 3 words, it's a very limited amount of text. If you have a sentence or 2, the AI will have more text to work with and to understand it better. You will see what that means as soon as we put it into practice. So now I'm going into chatting with data, and I will follow a structure that I developed for thinking about what you can do with prompts. And that means we will take a look at summarizing data, developing codes, navigating data, receiving feedback, and supporting our analytical thinking. I will tell you what I mean by this type of chat-based analysis, and then I will also show you some prompt examples. This is also supposed to first inspire you what prompts you can use, but also inspire you what can I in general use chatting for. Let's start with the most basic one. You want to summarize data. You can, of course, very simply write a prompt that says, summarize this, dot. The AI will very likely provide a quite solid summary, but you can do better. By summarizing data, we here take a look at the 2 types of data we can work with. One is summarizing a document. We can't just say, summarize this document, but if we are more specific, we can impact what this summary should focus on or how it should be structured. For example, we can here say, summarize the transcript of the interview, organize the summary in 3 sections, 1, 2, 3. We will try this in just a second. We can also summarize codes and also give some specific guidance on how to summarize the code and its coded segments. For example, one of my favorite structures is to say, summarize the coded segments. In a first section, focus on the common ground, on what the participants, what is their shared opinion. In a second section, highlight the unique or divergent opinions. We will try both of them now so that we see how this works in MAXQDA. You get a recording of the slides where you also then have the prompts, and I will also direct you to an article that includes the prompts, so don't worry right now about writing down the prompts. All right, let's start with the document. Here I have the work-life balance example project, default example project by MAXQDA. Oh, I just noticed my MAXQDA is still to German. I will very quickly switch it to English for you, because that should be more convenient. Here we go. Now it's in English. Let's chat with a document. Let's first just start very simply, just for us to understand. We have here the documents in MAXQDA, right? These are my imported interviews here. If I double click on one, I see the interview on the right, and down here on the left, I see the codes. I can do something very simple, like I right click here on Salim and say, AI assist, I would like to chat with this document. Here I have to agree to the privacy policy, and now I get the chat that only uses the document Salim, right? This is what we mean by chatting based on a document. And I can do something very simple, just for your understanding, summarize what Salim says. Very simple, right? Let's see what comes up there. And let me see if it gets who Salim is, because the document is called Salim, but you see here that the respondent is here given as R, but it says here interview with Salim. It should be fine. Yeah, it gives us something like this. Salim is dissatisfied with his current work-life balance. He typically works 9 to 10 hours a day. We get here a quick and short summary. What we also get here are numbers that indicate to us where is this coming from. So for example, these are internal references. He typically works 9 to 10 hours a day and is often out of the house for longer. I can click here on 7, and then we see here the reference. My work time itself is unpredictable. It depends on the length of number of external appointments, and so on and so on. Or I can go here to 14. Wait, I turn off these. It's a little bit confusing with the colors. So I think that's better. Yeah, now it's clearer what I'm selecting. Here, evenings, 7 and 8. Here, on average, here it says, typically works 9 to 10 hours. If I click here on the 8, I see on an average day 9 to 10 hours. So we get the references here. We can check this. We can go back and forth and then say something like only focus on his work. And then we will get a revised summary that only focuses on his work. We can chat back and forth here. We can also reset the chat, begin anew. If we change topic, it's often a good idea to reset it. Here now it says Salim's work is characterized, he's dissatisfied by this and that. And it now focuses only on the work and not on family time and childcare and whatnot. So this is how the chatting works. Also here in the chat history, we'll later see the chats coming up that I've used in the past. This is how the chat interface works. Now let's try the 2 prompts that I recommended to you. Let's have a quick look at them again. Summarize the transcript of the interview, organize the summary in 3 sections. All right, let's try that. I copy my prompt here from the PowerPoint. Let's call up, maybe Tatiana. I don't know. How about Tatiana or someone who has a lot of segments? Yeah, let's stick with Salim. Let's stick with Salim. Chat with this document. I paste my prompt in here. Summarize the transcript of the interview. Organize the summary in 3 sections. Let's say first work life, first work, second private life, and third, so these are here about work-life balance, and 3 here education. So I tell the AI to focus it on 3 sections. 1 is about work, 1 is about private life, and 1 is about education. Let's see how it deals with that prompt. It's always a little bit, sometimes it works better, sometimes it doesn't work as well. Let's see. We got here first work, second private life, third education. Salim's typical workday begins here and there. Salim's private life is heavily influenced by his demanding work. Salim expresses a strong desire for further education. That worked very well. And you see, hopefully, how this is a much more useful prompt than just summarize this, because we can impact the structure of the summary and the contents of the summary. And this will give us a much clearer goal and a much clearer output than what we would have had previously. Again, we have these numbers. We can check the references. He says he has hardly any time for my family. Let's see, it should be here or here, 12 or 13. Yeah, I have to decide whether I spend time with my friends and family and so on. I have to make this decision for my family, so we can check here the references. All right, this is a quick document summary, but specified by topics. The other one is I can summarize coded segments. Coded segments here means a code and its coded segments. Let's take here the code education. I can also chat with this by right-clicking and then AI Assist, chat with this code's segments. So here only the 24 segments, let's have a look at them. Only those 24 segments here, or let's export them in the retrieved segments maybe. Yeah, only those 24 segments down here, only they will be considered. And here you see what I mean with long or short statement. I am very satisfied, but I also like new things. This is not an awfully lot of context. I might misunderstand what this is about because from this statement, it's not clear what he's satisfied about. So based on these segments here, this coded data here, I can do my chat. I again paste my little prompt in here, summarize the coded segments. In the first section, focus on the common ground shared by most interview participants. In the second section, highlight the unique or divergent statements and opinions. This is a structure that I, in general, use a lot for thematic summaries. This, everyone said, this one here are the outliers. Let's see how well it's doing with that. All right, here we go. Based on the segments coded as education. So you see here the code name is also known and important. Here's a summary of the common experiences. Common ground. Many participants discussed the challenges of balancing education with other commitments, particularly work. Several participants work to support themselves financially while studying. Here too we get the references directly from our coded data here. So we can check also these references. Okay, this often leads to feelings of being overwhelmed and so on. Divergent statement and opinion. While many feel pressed to finish their studies quickly, one participant disagrees, stating that taking an extra year or two is acceptable. Who is this? Let's click on number 10 and we find here this is a focus group participant. Well, I think I would say I would rather study longer and work a little bit, but not 20 hours. Oh, this is an outlying opinion. Some participants are satisfied with the further training offered by their employees, while another feels that some training courses are not beneficial and a waste of time. Who is that? 24. We can check. This is here, this person. It always depends. For me, it is what do I get out of this training? This is Tatiana. And there you see the key advantage also of using MAXQDA's chat here. It not only gives us these summaries, but if it says one participant says this, I can click on the number and see who said it, where, in what context. And this summary here, I find a very nice thematic summary of the code education here, common ground, divergent statements and opinions, is a much better summary than just summarize this. It's also very easy to use afterwards. All right, this is summarizing data with chatting. Let's move on to developing codes. As qualitative researchers who work in a coding software, a software for coding data, it's quite likely that we want to develop a nice code system. Here we can also use chatting as an inspiration. We can do this based on a document and say, create a code system or coding system that focuses on topic with main and subcodes. Or we could work based on an already coded code and say, make suggestions for subcodes to further divide the code. So both options we have. Let's try that. Here it is all about coming up with good codes for coding your data. And here chatting with your data can really be a nice option. So just make sure that this is here. All right. No, I don't want to export anything. Let's chat again. Maybe with Tatiana, yeah. Or let me check. I'll take one of the longer interviews. Let me check which is the longest. Doesn't tell me here. Yeah, let's work with Tatiana. Okay, AI assist. I want to chat with this document, and I take here my prompt. Create a coding system that focuses on insert your focus with main and subcodes. It's good to give a focus, right? Create a coding system that focuses on balancing work and life. Yeah, work-life balance, or focuses on work-life balance. Maybe that's the easier word. On work-life balance with main and subcodes. Let's see. We should get now a list here that gives us an idea on, yeah, here we have work-life balance, work demands and structure. It says here is one of the main parts. Then private life and personal demands, well-being and satisfaction. That are the three main codes here. Then we have a sub-level here, work demands and structure, working hours and schedule. For example, fixed hours. And then you see, this is very nice. It already gives us the statements that relate to this. Overtime, extended hours, administrative tasks, parent-teacher meetings. Okay. Or here, job nature and commitment. The passion and enthusiasm, professional development and training, lack of boundaries. And you see here, you not only get an idea for a code system, but already one click away the statements to back it up. And this can be very, very nice for developing a code system. Maybe this is a good opportunity to introduce you to that you can not only code with one document, but with several documents. Let's try this now. I go here to AI Assist and say here chat with documents. And now I can choose multiple documents. I take 5 documents here. In particularly with this prompt, it's very helpful to have more than just one document. So I take these 5 documents now. I take the same prompt again. And I will definitely get a different code system because there's a different knowledge bases behind. Now the chat considers 5 documents and tries to come up with a good work-life balance focused code system. And it will also give us examples for these codes. Here it again says, work demands, flexibility and autonomy, separation, private life. Those are topics that come up. And then here we get all the references. Work hours, workload, job satisfaction, travel and commute time, and so on and so on. That can be a very interesting start for. And then you, of course, can say focus more on this or that topic. But it can give you a good start. Or even if you already have a code system for your data analysis project, you can ask this prompt to check and compare it and get a different idea. The other option for developing codes is, again, doc code based. So I can say here, for example, I have the code friends and family. It has 41 segments. And I would like to develop subcodes for this, sub-instances for this. Here again, AI chat with this code segments can become helpful. I can here say, make suggestions for subcodes to further divide the code. And now I enter the code name here. Friends and family. Split the suggested subgroups into 2 groups. And now I have to come up with something. One is available resources, or maybe friends and family. Let's say favorite activities. And the second one is satisfaction with family time, or with family and friend time. So I say I want to develop a subcode for friends and family, and I'm interested in, on the one hand, what are favorite activities, and on the other hand, how satisfied are people with how much time they have. Let's see how that works out for us. So, okay, favorite activities here. are mentioned shared meals, outdoor activities, entertainment, conversation and talking, helping and support, celebrations and reunions, playing. And again, we have all the references for it. And the second group here is satisfaction, desire for more time, time constraints, sacrifices and prioritization, and so on, impact of distance, quality versus quantity. So we get some ideas here on how we could split this up into subcodes. For example, into favorite activities and satisfaction. The favorite activities also already sound pretty good. With satisfaction, I would maybe try to cut it down to fewer codes because that's a little bit much. But we could try this by following it up here. All right, this is using a chat for developing codes. Let's move on to navigating data or retrieving data. So you can also ask the AI to give you back data that you're looking for. And this is in general with AI a little bit dangerous because it might not give you exactly the statement. So if you say, quote the statement about X, the quote might be slightly off. But with MAXQDA, it's not a problem because you click on the button and you get to the original statement. So you can use this sort of as a search engine within your data. Let's try two examples. For example, Tatiana here again. I could say here list all, and now I ask for specific information. For example, list her work duration and work days. List the work duration and work days that occur in this document. I want to know how long does it take and on what days does she work. Let's see, so I'm asking for retrieving specific information. Tatiana's typical workday starts shortly before 8 a.m. and ends at 4 p.m. All right. Her working hours are predefined and based on this and that. The document does not explicitly state how many days a week Tatiana works. This is good, in my opinion, because it does not come up with something fake. However, it mentions that her ex-husband takes their son every other weekend, implying that she has her son with her on the weekends and during the weekday. This suggests a standard Monday to Friday work week with additional work-related activities and household chores filling her evenings and weekends. So the AI tells you something that the AI rarely does. It says, I don't know. I don't know exactly what days Tatiana works, but given that she says this and that, it seems likely that she works Monday to Friday. And we can have the statements here backing this up, right? So this is not, if you enter something in the search term and nothing comes up, it will rarely tell you nothing was found. Here, the AI even tells us, it does not explicitly say that, but it is implied, it's here implied, make up your own mind. So this is a very nice way of integrating and navigating data. And this is also what I meant with, it's really set to hallucinate as little as possible. In a similar way, we can also try to find a specific data segment in our coded data. So if I chat here with the coded data, let me see, I will first take a look at what statement I want to find. Let me see. So that we can test it, right? Okay, let's say here's a statement: when my son is with me, I get ready myself, and so on and so on. Let's say find a statement where a participant talks about shared parenting. Okay, help me find the segment in the data where one participant talks about shared parenting duties. So I would like to see the statement here where Tan says, when my son is with me or not with me. Let's see if I can find that. Help me find the segment in the data where one participant talks about shared parenting duties. One participant, Selim, describes a typical morning routine with his family. He also mentions having dinner. Tan also describes a routine of preparing breakfast and bringing his son to kindergarten. This would be the statement I've been looking for. Well, when my son is with me, when I wake up, I get ready myself, and so on. So we were able to find the segment. We also found that Selim also has a statement that is somewhat similar. So this is, if you know, someone said something really interesting, it must be in this code, but I don't know where, AI can help you find it. All right, then I've got two more. Receiving feedback. Receiving feedback is very interesting. Although AI is, as I like to call it, an unreliable methodologist, it can be quite interesting to ask for feedback. And then it's yours to discard or continue with it, right? So what I like to do is to get feedback either on a document or on a code. If we get feedback on a document, you could do this with a text you have written saying, how could I improve the text? Or if you conducted an interview, you could ask the AI, hey, I seek to improve my interview technique. Please provide feedback on this interview. Let's try this right away. I'm a researcher seeking to improve my skills. Let's switch it over and go to Chris for once. We have a little bit of change here. Here's the interview with Chris. And our prompt here is, I'm a researcher seeking to improve my interview techniques. Provide feedback on this interview, including specific examples from the text, and make suggestions on how I could have done it in a better way. So this is basically as if you would ask a colleague and say, please read this interview. What do you think? Did I do a good job as an interviewer? Of course, it's not unbiased. You should never take it for like granted that this is the best feedback ever, but it definitely can point you to things. I used this before on interviews I conducted and said, hey, please point out to me if there are any instances of implicit racism or sexism or ageism in the behavior of the researcher, that is me. And then I said, hey, by the way, here, this was a little bit strange. What did you say there? This can be very helpful in reflecting on your position and your interaction with your research participants to see what can you do better, how can you be more empathic, how can you break out of your specific lens. Let's see what we get here. Just a moment more. Okay, it's taking a bit longer than the last one. Maybe that's a bit more challenging. Or maybe my connection right now is a bit slow. Let's see. Yeah, so why does it take so long now? I'll give it 10 more seconds and then I just restart it. Okay, I guess it was about 10 more seconds. I'm a bit impatient for this webinar. Let's just take another document and try again. I think it should not take this long. It's a rather short document. Let's start it right away and see if this is faster now. Sometimes it can be that it's a bit overloaded and it takes a bit longer, depending on times of day and whatnot. So, but now it's here, right? This interview with Selim provides valuable insights. Thank you so much. Here's a breakdown of feedback on the interview techniques. Overall strengths, clear focus, open-ended questions, active listening, and follow-up. Areas for improvement and suggestions. Probing for deeper emotional responses. Example, when Selim states he is not very satisfied to dissatisfied with the separation between work and leisure, the interviewer immediately asks, what changes would you like to see? Suggestion, before jumping to conclusion, it could be beneficial to probe deeper into the feelings associated with this discussion. This is a very interesting feedback. Of course, we also get the reference here. Here it says, at the moment, unfortunately, I'm very dissatisfied. Well, it could have been the question, not what changes would you like to see, but where is this coming from? How are you feeling? Definitely, yeah. Explore the why behind statements more. Selim mentions that his work currently takes up more space than necessary. The interviewer then asks about further education, instead of moving to a new topic asking, why do you feel it takes up so much time? Yes, this would have been better. I would agree. Clarifying ambiguous terms and concepts, varying question phrasing for satisfaction level, and so on and so on. Using the rating scale more effectively. Selim rates his well-being as a 2. While he explained why he chose 2, a follow-up like, what would need to change for that 2 to become a 3 or even a 4 could provide more insights. This is a very nice, so if you just did your first interview and you have transcribed it, I would give this prompt a try, just to give you some ideas on how you can improve, especially if you did your very first interviews. I would totally ignore the strengths here, by the way, because AI is always trying to please you. But here, these are some pretty nice suggestions. I see. Give me a second. I prepared the wrong prompt here. The other one about feedback is this one. No, here. Yeah, I don't find the exact prompt right now. I just noticed I copy and paste it. Here it is. So the prompt is that I like to use for feedback on codes. Now I inserted the right one. I copy and pasted the wrong one. Is these segments have been coded with a code labeled as, insert code name. I defined the code as follows, insert the code definition. Please identify segments that do not match this definition. This can be very interesting as well to quality check your coding. And to test this, we will do a little experiment. I take the code education here. I assume that it is clean. And we're gonna code it with something that's totally not education. Let's see. Here for example. What would you like to do in your time for yourself? I would like to have a physical outlet, do some sports, some jogging, and so on. This definitely has nothing to do with education, right? I'm now going to code this under education. And now I will ask AI Assist, chat with this code, it's coded segments, and I will ask it to find for me any segments that don't really fit education. And I would hope to find this segment again, okay? These segments have been coded with a code labeled as education. I defined the code as follows. Statements about improving one's own education. Identify segments that do not match this definition. It should find the segment about sports now. Let's see. Maybe it finds more, but this one it should definitely find. Here, number 2, this segment focuses on perceived value. Okay, I think that a graduate of educational science not necessarily the preferred candidate for most jobs. Let me see. Statements, it's not about improving one's own education, yes. Here, 18. This segment is about someone wanting to do sports to relieve stress, which is related to personal well-being rather than improving one's own education. It found exactly the statement that I miscoded. Also some others that I would need to look into, but it found this statement. So here you can also use the AI to quality check on you. And there you see, I hope you see the added value of having this chat in MAXQDA. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat, and I will read them and respond to them, all right? There is just one more, and then we are through with my prompts, and then you get a little conclusion, and then we can have a little discussion. Just write your questions in the chat or in the Q&A section. But as you see here, this is already the way that I like to use AI and the chat to get feedback, to improve my own work, to get an sort of additional perspective, to make sure I did things cleanly, and so on and so on. This can be very valuable here. All right, last one is that we can assist our interpretation and analytical thinking. For example, based on a document or documents, this can be identify where the interviewee contradicts themselves in their statements, identify internal contradictions in the reasoning, in the arguing of the interviewee. Or we can say, I'm interested in this topic, make suggestions for grouping the statements here. That would also be helpful to say, give me ideas, how can I analytically group my statements about education. But I want, with the remaining time, show you my new, and that's the 11th prompt, that's the latest one I came up with, thanks to the latest functions of MAXQDA, is also a very analytical task. And that is the goal of many research projects, is to sort of group data or create a typology or show commonalities within your data set. And we can even give an AI a complex task saying, I want to group the documents to develop a typology. Create suggestions for key characteristics that can be used to create the typology, and make suggestions for different ways of grouping the documents. So I say I have my 10 interviews, what are key characteristics and how could I group them so that I have my little typology of interviews. Let's try that. I think that is the most interesting one. And we have only about 50 minutes with Q&A. I want to use the time well. Let's go to chat with documents, and let's take all the 10 documents here. You see here I have 5 of 30 selected. That's only 10% of the data. So here with these 10 interviews, I could still use 5 times as much data. So that's fine. These 10 interviews are used. And now let's use our little prompt. I want to group the 10 documents, we could even say, to develop a typology. Create suggestions for key characteristics and suggestions for a typology. Let's see, it's a very complex task, right? And I would not like take this again as immediately your results, but you can use this to challenge your own typology, to get some perspectives on what are interesting dimensions, what are interesting characteristics that you could keep working with and looking at. Let's have a look what it comes up with. Yeah, there, I see already some questions. All right, I see some interesting questions. I will come to them once I'm through with my little presentation here. Let's see. A little bit slow, but now we also have 10 documents, right? So this is 10 times as much data as we had before. Let's see if it comes up with a result right away. If not, I'll just restart it. I'll give it a little bit longer and then we are ready. But I hope you understand what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to split the 10 documents into groups and see, all right, what documents belong together. Yeah, I think I restart this again. It's a bit slowish today. Or maybe I'm just impatient. Up to you. And if it takes a bit longer, I just take a question in between. But I think it should usually be done in like under a minute. So it's a bit unusual if it takes longer than that. All right, I will just turn to one of the questions here in the chat. In the meantime, while we keep this running. Okay, then question later. Okay, to develop a typology for these documents, we can identify several key characteristics related to work-life balance. The characteristics can be used to group the documents. Here are some suggestions for key characteristics. Now we have key characteristics. What things, what elements, what dimensions could be used for creating a typology in general? One could be job flexibility, high, moderate, or low. And it gives us, again, examples for each of them. High, here's an example from Kazumi. Low, here's an example from Tatiana. How flexible is your job? High, medium, low, that could be part of our typology. Satisfaction with work-life separation, good, poor, integrated, no separation. Okay. Good separation, poor separation, no separation. Who intentionally blend work and leisure. That's strange. Who's that? That's someone here in the focus group. You see, the focus group is also included here, which already brings us to one of the questions. Sorry, that was my mistake. Yeah. We can build a topology based on flexibility and satisfaction, presence of caregiving responsibilities, high caregiving responsibilities, low or no caregiving responsibilities, overall well-being, very happy, happy, mixed, unhappy. Again, we get here the scores. Desire for change in working hours and conditions. All right. Desire for change. Okay. And then we see here, here's a grouping suggestion. This typology focuses on the degree of autonomy individuals have. Okay. So grouping suggestion is by job flexibility and control. The highly autonomous ones are Matteo, Riley, Amadi, and David. The moderately flexible are Tan, Chris, and Kasumi. The structurally constrained are Selim, Anne, and Tatiana. So we could group them by job flexibility and control, and we get the suggestion on who belongs into what group. Suggestion 2, by work-life integration versus separation. The integrators are David and Riley. The separators are Matteo, Chris, and Amadi. The struggling separators are Selim, Tan, Anne, Kasumi, and Tatiana. I think that's a fantastic result here. It gives us not one, but 3 suggestions on how we could group our data with suggestions who belongs where, strongly rooted in our data. And that is something that can be very, very helpful in checking the typology you build, giving you ideas on where you could develop this further, and so on, and so on. All right. This is a little bit strange. All right. So let's conclude, and then we come to the questions. So this was assisting the interpretation and the analytical thinking, for example, for building a typology, identifying contradictions, or by finding new dimensions, angles at a code. Here is an overview of these use cases. As you might have noticed, I have sort of a matrix in my mind. This is what Stefan Redeker and I came up with. Case-based and theme-based prompting, used for summarizing, developing codes, navigating data, receiving feedback, and assisting interpretation and analytical thinking. If you like this, and if you also would like to use these prompts, I'll share the link here in the chat. This is based on an article I've written together with Stefan. And of course, you can read the article, quote the article. It has its DOI if you need some reference from where you get your prompts from. You cannot only say I was in Andreas' webinar, but you can also reference this blog post. Chatting with your data, 10 prompts for analyzing interviews. This is also where you find this table in case you want to reuse it. Now, what are the advantages of using AI Assist also compared to like other general AI chat boxes? And as you have heard in the beginning, I'm really not a fan of chat boxes, but the MAXQDA one, as you hopefully have seen, can be quite helpful once you know what to do with it. It allows you to directly use your coded data as an input for AI-based analysis. That is a big advantage. So if you have already coded something, you can immediately use your pre-coded, your pre-selected data without any extra steps. You can just say, I want to use this, I want to do something with it. For example, give me feedback on what statements don't fit under this code. This is very, very helpful. Then what you also have is you have very good and easy control of what data is considered as a knowledge basis for the chat. So if I just go here, chat with documents, I can just choose to take those 4 documents, but leave out Tan. Because maybe Tan did not consent, or Tan is not interesting enough, or whatnot. I can very detailed like carefully choose what documents to choose. I can even go so far, if you know some MAXQDA basics, you could say activate documents based on variable values, and I say give me everyone who is above 30 in its age, activate, and then I could say I would like to chat with everyone who's above 30, because I can here say activated documents. So also even these mixed methods capabilities I have in selecting what documents I would like to chat with. Or I could say I want to chat with everyone who has children, and then you can select it. So you have very careful control over what data is included. Also, you have these very clear one-click references that take you right into your data, that allow you to check the accuracy of your output. This is also which I think we very rarely see that well done. And the last and also very important reason is that MAXQDA, in case you don't know it, is a software made in Germany, in Berlin. And that means it follows, it's fully GDPR compliant. It follows European data protection laws. The servers that are being used to handle all this are based in the EU. And if you have to write, have to like address data protection concerns, MAXQDA is making it as easy for you as possible, because there's a German company behind it that definitely follow German data protection laws. So it's not, I don't know, some obscure AI tool where you even don't know where they are based. And MAXQDA and the software behind it is an academic research software for more than 30 years now. So it's a very well established academic software. And you use it within this domain, which also gives you like some security on what is happening. All right, that's it. If you want some human help apart from some AI help, you can also reach out to me. You can send me an email if you like, if you need a webinar or an instruction, if you want a consultant to talk with you about your research, or if you want to have a keynote for your little conference or whatnot, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm sharing my email here. If you would like to get the slides for today, you can also send me a quick email, then I send you the slides. But in the end, the same prompts you find in the article that I linked earlier.